In the wake of yesterday's news about right tackle, how much progress did you see Eli make last year at that spot? And as a follow-up, how much concern is there about your depth at tackle right now?
Well, I thought Eli made a lot of progress last year throughout the season. And he ended the last game and a half or so where he hurt his ankle. But as far as it goes, as it relates to Eli, it's a good thing for him personally because now he gets to go back to the position he spent 800, 900 snaps at last year and all the practice that goes with that. So from his perspective, it's a good thing. Yeah, anytime you lose a player that you think's a good player, your depth is going to be challenged. There's no two ways about that.
Next up, Troy Rink, Denver 7, followed by Jeff Legwell. Troy, go ahead, please.
Hey, good to see you. Some housekeeping items. Where does it stand with Bryce Callahan? And how does that cornerback mix look? Would he be inside, and who would be the other guy opposite AJ? That first, what does Bryce's health look like, and kind of how does that cornerback those three guys look? Where does that stand?
Bryce's health is good. About a week or 10 days before we came back here, he got sick, not COVID sick. He had a stomach virus and he lost some weight, so we got to get that back on him. But his foot right now is fine, no problems. We are going to work him at both spots. He'll play corner and inside at nickel, along with obviously a bunch of other people at both positions. And we'll see how it unfolds by the time we line up against Tennessee. But he's going to work both spots.
Next up, Jeff Legwell at ESPN, followed by Mike Kliss. Jeff, go ahead, please.
Vic, I just had a couple. The first one is, do you get sort of a procedural thing? Do you get like a COVID report every morning? Do you get like what the testing has been, who may have been affected? Do you get some kind of update each day on that? And secondly, have you made the plan for how much actual hitting you'll do when you can go to padded practices?
I do not get a formal report every day, but I do get a report verbally. And so far, so good. We've only had the one positive test, and we've been going at this for a pretty good bit now. So knock on wood, it's been going good. As far as the live action goes, we will probably do some of that during camp, possibly introduce it late in the first week after we have pads on, maybe like the 6th or 7th or 8th practice, something like that, and then play it by ear after that.
Next up, Mike Kliss, High News, followed by Eric DeLalla. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, Vic, you're kind of a old school. I guess we'd call you an old school type of coach. I was just wondering how it is for you with all these COVID protocols, getting a test every day, the mask. Does it seem, awkward for you, uncomfortable? Is it strange? Just how is it just dealing with all the protocol hoops you got to jump through before you actually have a walkthrough practice, for instance?
Well, I don't think it matters where you are in your coaching career experience-wise. This is new for everybody. Nobody has experience in this, and I always like to say you got to, the great ones can I&A it, which means improvise and adjust. And we want to be a bunch of great ones here and excel at improvising and adjust. There's no wiggle room. The protocols are what they are. We got to abide by them and move past it, But once we've gotten on the field, now we're on the field just for walkthroughs now and their conditioning, et cetera. It does feel normal. And the good thing is our guys are excited to be here. The overwhelming feeling I've gotten from the players as a group and individually is they're all very happy to be here. They're ready to go. They kind of wish, I think, they were practicing normal by now already. They're ready to go. These guys had a good off season individually. I talked to all of them 3 to 5 times during the spring when all this was going on, and they were working out, and I think it's proven to be true.
Next up, Eric Delala, followed by Nick Kosmider. Eric, go ahead, please.
Yeah, Coach, just a few walkthroughs in, but how have you seen guys like Judy, Hamler, Ojemudia, Cushenberry kind of translate some of that virtual classroom work to the field?
It's been good. You know, it's a step, you know, I mean, to go from the classroom virtually, which is different and not as good as a real classroom, to now take it to a slow pace walkthrough has been good. Now we're going to have to take it to the phase 2 practices here in a few days, which are still not full speed. And then we take it to the full speed practices, and, you know, and that will tell us more at that time. But it's a work in progress. You know, I don't expect them to be perfect by any means early on, but we want them close to perfect by the time we line up against Tennessee.
Next, we got Nick Kosmider with the Athletic, followed by Andrew Mason. Nick, go ahead.
Vic, just what's been your impression of having, you know, Jarrell Casey in the building, his veteran leadership, and what do you think is going to be the biggest thing that he brings to that group?
What I've, you know, been able to sense so far is obviously he's got experience, but some guys have a lot of experience and they have a hard time of using it and conveying it to others. I don't think that will be the case with him. And I think part of it is because he really likes football. He really likes helping people. So those are two qualities you have to lend your experience to others, and I think he has those. I think he's excited to be here, you know, from my conversations with him. And we're excited to see, you know, exactly how good he is for the Broncos moving forward, but we're optimistic.
Next, we got Andrew Mason, followed by Darren McKee. Andrew, go ahead.
Vic, when you address the team, how is it structured, and what's the biggest thing that gets lost if you can't meet with the entire team in the meeting room the way you normally would?
Yeah, it's a little – obviously that's different for me as the head coach. When you do want to have a team meeting, we can't have all the players in one place. So basically the way it will happen is I'll run the team meeting in front of the offense. The defensive players will be in the defensive room watching the team meeting virtually. And then when that team meeting's over, obviously I'll go to the defense and run the defensive meeting like always. So if there's any questions that maybe they didn't get answered or had from the team meeting, they'll be able to ask me then. The asking questions from one virtual room to the other is a little cumbersome. And so we have to, you know, get through that part of it. But it's different. It feels different. It is different.
Next up, Darren McKee, followed by Zach Stevens. Darren, go ahead, please.
Coach, in Juan James' statement yesterday, he referred to being misrepresented in his health, which seemed to be a shot at what you said about him last year, not being mentally ready to go. Do you have any regrets about that? And do you think that factored into his decision to opting out?
No, I don't think it factored into it at all. You know, Juwan and I had several conversations in the off season. They all were very good and productive. I don't think it had any bearing on it whatsoever. He was training to have a good season all through the off season. I thought he had a good off season. We spoke many times. And, you know, down towards the end here when he had to make a decision, you know, he just chose to opt out, which is his choice, and we're fine with it.
Time for a few more. Next up, Zach Stevens.
Hey, Vic, will there be a competition at left tackle still, or is that Garrett Bowles' job right now?
Right now, to be honest with you, I would have to say it's his to lose.
And what gives you confidence that he can take that step this year?
I think he took a step last year during the season. Played better the last half, the last third of the season than he did in the early part of the season. I think he's had his best off season, you know, as far as where he's at. You know, he had a really productive off season as it comes to physical workouts. I think he's in a better place mentally and emotionally than he's ever been in at this time of the year. He's got Mike coaching him now for the second season in a row, which I don't think he had previous in his career. I think we all sense that he's in a better spot in all areas than he has been in his past. And he's gotten bigger. I think he's gotten more knowledgeable. And I think he's ready. Can I guarantee it? No. We'll all see, when we start playing real games. But I'm cautiously optimistic.
Last two, Ryan O'Haller and Brandon Cristello. Ryan, go ahead.
Hey, Vic, regarding Judy and Hamler, in recent history, first and second round receivers sometimes take a little while to get going once they start playing. From your perspective as a defensive play caller, why can that transition be tough?
Well, I think, especially after preparing for this draft, that receivers in college football, by and large, not 100%, have it real easy in college football with the defenses they see and the offensive schemes they're in and what they're going against. I see too many wide receivers when you're watching college tape running wide open, not running NFL-type routes on a consistent basis. And that's why it can be a slow process for some of them. But everybody progresses at a different rate. I think in Jerry's case, he's coming from an offense that should help him progress quicker, based upon the work that he puts in. I think the same thing with KJ. I think Cortland would tell you last year, midway through his rookie season was a lot different than starting off. I think he would tell you last year was a lot different than his rookie season. And, there's a progress that everybody goes through, but for each and every player, it's different. But I'm confident those guys will have a nice progression through those hurdles.
Last one, Brandon Cristello, KOA. Go ahead, Brandon.
Vic, obviously everything's different this year because of COVID and no preseason games, but it seems like you're trying to stick to a normal training camp schedule with maybe a little less to do. Is some of that to get guys back into routine, some of it to just keep them in the building and keep them safe, I guess, if you've got them nearby versus if they're at home from 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock on when y'all are done maybe?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of all of that. We do, as I explained to the players, while they're here, in our buildings and on our fields, we do have somewhat of a pretty good bubble going here. It's about as safe a place as you can be through the protocols and through the great work of the people here that have set this up for us. So like I told them, why not stay in your bubble as long as you can? And this season is different than any other season. The time we're going through right now is basically, it's our normal phase 1, phase 2 of the off season, but with somewhat of training camp hours, so it's different, so we're really not in training camp yet. I'm not calling training camp practice 1 for me is August 14th. And everything prior to that is more off-season type stuff, with more hours than they're used to in the off-season.